Hello, dear marketers in New Zealand. It's May and the clock is ticking. Just over 2 months before, hopefully, I'll meet many of you in our events in Auckland. I can't wait. But before, let's talk about what's new in the world of marketing in May 2025. And this month is going to be the Kantar Brands ranking. You've probably seen this. It's the global top 100 list of what Kantar believes are the world's most valuable brands. And the winners are, big surprise, Apple, Google, Microsoft, Nvidia, Facebook, Instagram, tech companies. The usual suspects, because if you look at big rankings of brands, they tend to currently be up there. There are some interesting newcomers this time. There's Uniqlo, Japanese fashion, and there's Hilton, the hotels, but also some challenger brands that are new, like Stripe and Chip.com and Booking.com and DoorDash and OpenAI's ChatGPT, of course. And a few old blue chips like Morgan Stanley and Adidas just made it back in to the top 100 ranking. Now, why does this brand ranking matter? Now, Kantar believes it matters because when you had bought the stocks of these companies in 2006, the stock value would have gone up by 435%. That's quite a lot. Versus, for example, the S&P 500, that's just 171%. So clearly, the brands on this list are the ones that, when you think about stocks, have clearly created significant returns. Now, Kantar believes the methodology that's right to calculate brand value is to look at something called financial value and then the brand contribution. First, Kantar looks at how much money the parent company makes from things you can't touch, the so-called intangibles like brand names and trademarks. And they're using a formula to calculate what's called the intangible ratio. Then they figure out how much of those earnings actually come from the brand in question. Like, for example, when you think about Audi, this is a brand of the Volkswagen Group. So they look at Audi, not at Volkswagen. And that's what they call the attribution rate. And finally, they estimate how valuable the brand will be in the future by using a multiplier. But they also look at something else, and this is the consumer perception. It's called the brand contribution. So that's a proportion of the financial value generated by the brand's ability to increase purchase volume or, and that's pretty cool, charge a premium. So here's how to figure that out. First, they want to know how much of the brand's financial value is actually driven by its equity, its strengths compared to competitors. Or in simple terms, is the brand helping sell more, charge more, or grow more? And they do this by doing a sophisticated consumer analysis and trying to understand this. And then they break this down into three things. Something they call demand power. And this shows how much the brand alone makes people choose it today. Then there's pricing power. How much more are people willing to pay because of that brand? That, by the way, is a hugely important metric, not just here, but in general as a marketer, because that is a lot of what brand image can help you do, which is increase your pricing power. And then, of course, there is something called future power. How likely are people to choose it or start using it for a good price later? And they measure all of these things using global surveys. So this is our consumer data. And then as a final step, they put all of that together, and that gives them a total value. And they're not the only ones doing it. Brand Finance does this, Interbrand, and there are a couple of more companies doing this. Now, you will not be surprised that there's criticism. Of course, some people think this isn't transparent. And in all fairness, Kantar publishes a lot, but not everything. Some of these things are estimated. Some of these things are things done internally, and they're not completely transparent to the outside world. Some academics have written extensively about that it's hard, if not impossible, to do an analysis of something that is intangible and tee it all apart internally and saying this is this, this is that. There is criticism that this is not predictive. And in fact, the report itself proves it's not predictive because every year some of those top brands suddenly fall out of that index. So by nature, being in there does not mean you have success in the future. It's not that predictive. It's also, when you look at all of these brand valuations across the different suppliers, there's a lot of inconsistency. There's this famous case where in 2015, Interbrand valued Apple at 170 billion. And then Brand Finance, another company, estimated 128 million. And Miller Brown at the time said 247 million. That's a disparity of almost 100%. So I would totally agree that the absolute value that is shown there isn't a number you should copy and paste and immediately believe. There's a huge range in brand valuations among these different companies. There is something else, and this is the big question of correlation and causation. Does brand value drive company value? It's unclear. There is a correlation. It's very clear. If a company is big, their name is more likely to be in that ranking. And in fact, there is a fantastic research that researchers have done to prove that all the valuations of Brand Finance and Interbrand and Kantar show whatever they show correlates quite strongly with company value. And that's good. That means that at least the methodology and company value have some type of connection. But there is no proof that the company is valuable because the brand is valuable, because marketing has built a fantastic brand. This question is out, and none of those rankings actually explain this. And this is the reason why, if you come back to bigger pictures, a lot of CEOs and CFOs will lose very little sleep over the latest brand ranking, be it from Kantar, Brand Finance, and Interbrand. Now, I believe these rankings are hugely valuable. It is another step towards making the case for why brands do matter. It's a little element, a little piece in a puzzle that helps us understand how important brands are. So what does it mean for you? Well, of course, it's really cool to be in that ranking. And if your brand is really big and your company is really big and you're in there, congratulations. But you know what? The only real ranking of brands that matters is the ranking that your consumers have when they shop. And when you create growth with a brand that is in no ranking, all eyes will be on you. Hey, we have a new block of 1 minute Marketing Leader Series videos out. We're talking about finding the real insights. We're talking about siding with the revenue camp, quite connected to what we just discussed. And also, even more connected, finding how much your work is worth. See you next month, and definitely see you in July.